All right. Hello, everybody. I hope you all are doing well. This is DFS Army's tournament strategy show, where usually we look back at the previous slate, talk through what went well, what didn't go as well. But there wasn't a 100K tournament to win yesterday. The contests were pretty small over the weekend for NBA, which was a little weird, but it is what it is. NFL was awesome, though, this weekend. I know you had a takedown too, didn't you, Brandon?
Yeah, I took down a $50 single entry for the Sunday slate for NFL and had a nice little mini max takedown for NBA on Sunday as well. So pretty good weekend.
Yeah, just something slight, just a little something here and there. No, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Glad it was a good weekend. But let's look at today's slate. We have a nice 3-game slate on deck. Some huge injury news coming in the first game. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's just look at the Nuggets going up against the 76ers. When we look at injury news, we have Nikola Jokic listed as questionable, Jamal Murray questionable, Aaron Gordon questionable, Michael Porter Jr. questionable, KCP questionable. Basically, every single starter for the Nuggets are questionable tonight. Do you have anything you want to say about this?
So unfortunately, as we were starting the show, we literally just got news that every starter is probable now. So
Oh,
yeah, that's gonna take the fun we possibly could have had tonight. So that's good. That's gonna make this slate a lot more uninteresting and harder to play. So yeah. So yeah, we'll definitely have to talk about these guys being in now, unfortunately. Yeah, I know.
that's such a buzzkill. That is
Yes,
such
it
a
is.
buzzkill.
Yes, it is. I was hoping like we were talking about before the show, at least like one or two guys out, but
Yeah.
can't have nice things
Well,
like we always say.
everyone gets their Jokic going up against Embiid matchup. So congrats to actual basketball fans. But for us DFS lovers, it's tough. It's tough streets, tough shredding out there. Now that everyone's listed as probable, are any of the Denver guys standing out for you?
Not really. I mean, I'll still take some shots depending on ownership because right now it's looking like Jokic will be super low owned, which is understandable because we have Embiid $100 cheaper and he's been in better form DFS wise. So everybody will be playing Embiid rightfully so, but definitely don't mind taking a shot on Jokic. As far as the other guys, they won't be really a priority for me. I'm sure I'll have a decent mixture of Gordon and Porter. They're both in a nice 6K range, so don't mind taking a shot there. And then Murray's going to be a bit harder to play at 8,300. I definitely would have loved him more if Jokic was out, but oh well. And then some of these like cheaper guys like Reggie Jackson, I could still see him being chalky just because we don't really have value tonight, and he's in that 3K range and sees around 20 minutes off the bench, so he's gonna make lines work, and it'll be hard to get to like DeAndre Jordan and Najee now, so I think they're probably unplayable at this point, and then
Yeah. Yeah.
Watson and Brian, I'm okay if they show up a little bit too. So yeah, overall, this team is a bit more harder to play with everybody looking like they're healthy.
Yeah, the value on this slate, it's gonna get ugly if you're trying to pay up today. I can just go ahead and tell you that. There's still one more potential value option potentially based off of news, but even that guy's not as cheap. We'll get to that game here soon. But like you said, I mean, it's hard to even consider Jokic at this price tag. When we look at previous games, he just hasn't shown the 70, 80 point upside against Embiid so far in their previous matchups. He's really more so been in that at least 40-point range on the high end, maybe seeing around 60, 64 points. But that's still not something that gets you excited for a guy who's 11,500. Like you said, he's going to be low owned. So I'm okay with having some exposure to him, but not someone I'm going to prioritize. We'll get to the other side of it here soon. But yeah, everyone's priced appropriately here. I'm okay getting some exposure to MPJ and Aaron Gordon, but not excited about it. Reggie Jackson, I'll probably have to limit how much of him I get. but they're all in the mix. Just not excited about this team as of right now. Moving on, the 76ers. This team's getting healthy, which is good for them. Joel Embiid is expected to play. Robert Covington, did we get recent news on that situation? I thought I saw something come through, but no, that was just the Nuggets stuff.
Yeah.
So Robert Covington still TBD. Mo Bamba still TBD. Jaden Springer and Kenneth Lofton Jr. are also listed as TBD. So we'll see. And then DeAnthony Melton has been out with that back injury for a good bit now. So everyone's playing here for the most part. Is anyone standing out for you here for the Sixers?
Just Embiid, really. I know value is going to suck tonight, even more so now with us not getting the news he wanted. But the form that Embiid is in, it's hard to ignore. He's like averaging 35 real points and I think like 11 or 12 rebounds and almost 6 assists. So it's hard to ignore how he's playing right now. So I think I have a decent amount of him tonight. And then as far as everybody else, they're just priced up and unappealing tonight.
Yeah, it's a tough one. What's up, Dixon? Good to see you, man. Happy Russ Revenge Day. That's one way of looking at it. Bobby, yeah, Embiid got a little bit of crap there for a little bit, but they played a little bit, but they have missed each other on occasion for sure. Shooter said no value today at all. Hard to pay up for sure. Yeah, and balanced builds don't look that awful when you look at the Clippers players too. So definitely a lot of options on the slate. Just, hate we don't have a ton of value. What's up, Marshall? Good to see you, man. Michael Ortiz, good morning. Gerardo, good to see you, man. All right, so yeah, I'm right there with you, Brandon. I think Joel Embiid, he has shown 80-plus point upside in this matchup before, so it's a little bit easier for me to be willing to play Embiid today, but as of right now, without value I love, I don't think I'm going to make either one of them priorities for me. I'm probably only going to play 20 lines tonight and 3 max, so Joel Embiid and Jokic will have some exposure, but I doubt I'll end up being over the field on either one. I think Tyrese Maxey is an interesting tournament play, but at 9,400, it's just really hard for me to even consider his price tag with just his recent performance. We just haven't seen enough high upside performances. Tobias Harris is viable for me. He's always a much better play when Embiid is out or anyone else on this team is out. But 7,500, matchup against the Nuggets, their forwards don't really concern me too much from a defensive standpoint. So he's someone who's on my radar just because of the matchup. But like you said, man, I'm not excited about anyone here in this game anymore, unfortunately. Next up, we have a game that's more exciting, at least in my opinion. We have the Kings going up against the Suns. For the Kings, Keegan Murray is listed as questionable. I think that's the piece of news that could open things up a little bit for us on this slate, but let's see. What are your thoughts with the Kings today, man?
Sabonis is a guy I don't mind getting to again. I definitely want to see the ownership on him, but he's another guy that's in pretty good form as of late, and he can put up a triple-double any night, so I'd be willing to go there. Fox, he's looking slightly better. The main issue with him is he just can't buy a bucket. He's shooting so bad right now, so that's kind of what makes him a bit scary to play. But we know he has pretty good upside, and I wouldn't mind having some shares of him in this matchup. And then I think Malik Monk, we can go right back to him in this 6K range. I know he's a little bit streaky, but on a short slate, someone like him who shoots the ball a crap ton, I don't mind getting there, especially if Keegan ends up being out. That just opens up more minutes and kind of solidifies those minutes. And if he is out, then I don't mind getting to guys like Herder because he's kind of in the same boat where he's a bit streaky. But if he's knocking his shots down, he can definitely get you there. And that makes Trey Lyles a bit more playable too. But his value that we're used to seeing is kind of out the window with it reaching 5K. So he's a little bit harder to play, but more viable if Keegan is out. So he's kind of the guy I'm looking out for to determine how I'm playing these other guys.
Agreed. Jasmine, good to see you. Daniel, going back to Beverly. We didn't talk about Beverly much. Brandon, did you consider him? I feel like he's going to be one of those guys who probably shows up a little bit naturally just because of the value we're desperate for. But do you have
Yeah,
any quick thoughts on him?
I'm okay if he shows up a little bit, but he's definitely not going to be a priority at 4,600. I know he had a decent game last time out, but one thing Pat Bev isn't is consistent. So that's not something I'm looking to chase.
Yeah. Thomas Diamond, hope you're doing all right. Yeah, for me, like I said, I like the Kings. Sabonis, we saw him do well against the Suns earlier this season. He had a 60-point game, so I don't think that's crazy, even at the $10,100 price tag. I still don't like picking on the Suns with bigs too often, and Nurkic has just been able to really hold it down for the most part this season, so I'm okay with Sabonis, but I'm looking to prioritize Fox here. Like you said, he has not been great, but he's still shooting. They're still giving him a ton of opportunity. When I'm playing guys against the Suns, I like to play guards against the Suns. Just slightly easier matchup for him. This game does have the highest game total on the slate, so this is one of those games where I'm looking to get exposure to it one way or the other. Ideally, these guys will be lower owned, but waiting for ownership there. And then I think you hit the nail on the coffin with Keegan Murray. With him being questionable, Trey Lyles should move into the starting lineup if Murray gets ruled out. Trey Lyles at 4,800, like you said, not a fantastic must-have value play, but he makes lineups a lot easier if we do get that news. So we'll see. Kind of have to wait it out. But just like you said, Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter would become much more viable plays just because their minutes will be a little bit more stable if Murray gets out of the rotation as well. So Fox is really the main guy I'm going to prioritize, but depending on how news shakes out, the rest of these guys are interesting. If Keegan Murray plays tonight, it's looking a little bit gross for the other Kings for me outside of Sabonis and Fox. Do you feel the same way, or do you feel differently about any of that?
I agree.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have the Suns going up against the Kings. For the Suns, Bol Bol's out, but that's really the only piece of news that doesn't change too much for me. Who do you like here?
Kevin Durant for sure. 9,200 for him in this matchup. He's going to look great, and I think it's safe to say he'll probably be a core play for me tonight. Booker, I like him in this matchup as well too, so I'll be looking to make sure I have some of him. And then I'm completely fine with getting to Bill as well. He's been looking a bit better as of late, and 7,400 is going to be nice for that balanced build if that's the route you want to go in. We know he has some decent upside, which haven't seen much this year, but it's definitely still there. So definitely don't mind getting to him. And then these other guys is kind of, man, I'm not really on Nurk tonight. Gordon, I'm sure, will show up just because of lack of value. Only thing really going for him is the amount of minutes he sees. Grayson is a little bit too pricey for me. I wish he was a little cheaper in that 4K range as well. And then Met 2 would be another ugly value play. He'll be interesting just because Bol is out, and then Eubanks hasn't really been seeing minutes. I think last game he saw 18 minutes and did okay. So at 3,600, I don't mind taking some shots there, but it's not a pretty play by any means.
Yeah, I agree with where you were going there with me too, looking like a viable option potentially, especially with Bobo out, it solidifies that. But I agree too. It's also still not something you're overly excited about. It's just viable. All right. I was looking into this Sabonis Nurkic matchup a little bit closer just because I want to make sure I wasn't missing anything. But I know Nurkic did miss one of those games when they faced each other earlier this season. So a little bit to dig into there. But I'm really excited about Kevin Durant. He's probably the stud I feel the best about just because of the game environment, matchup, things of that sort. his price tag is so close to Devin Booker, and he's been a bit more consistent this season. So Kevin Durant is definitely my priority over Booker tonight. Bradley Beal, like you mentioned, his upside, he's shown it here recently. He does still have that 50-plus point upside when it comes to fantasy. So that keeps him in my mix. He's someone I'm looking to prioritize. And then Nurkic. My concern with Nurkic isn't the matchup against Sabonis, because Sabonis is a very just average defender, nothing special there. Your concern is on the opposite side of the ball, where Nurkic could get into foul trouble because of Sabonis and just the way he plays. But as long as that doesn't happen, I like Nurkic's price tag, I like the game environment, and I like the matchup. So I think he's still very, very viable there. And then Allen and Gordon, if they show up a little bit, like you said, I'm fine with it. But ideally, they don't show up too much because they're just not great. So that's the game plan currently. Anyone else you want to touch on here that you feel like we might have overlooked?
Nope, that's it for me.
All right, last game on the slate, hammer game. We have the Thunder going up against the Clippers. Nice, decent total at 235. Spread at 6.5 is a little wide, but nothing to run away from, really. The Thunder are pretty healthy per usual. But what's your game plan here?
Thunder looked pretty unappealing tonight outside of SGA. He's gonna be somebody I don't mind getting to on a slate like this. Great upside and has been playing well as of late. Only other person I'm really considering is Jalen Williams. His price did go up a decent amount from last game, but he's been pretty consistent. So he's somebody I probably wouldn't mind taking a shot on. But everybody else they're priced up, either priced up or just ugly to get to. Like, I love Chet, but 8,200 for him is pretty tough. And the way he's been playing, he hasn't shown that upside to pay that off. And then Giddey's minutes are just a little too inconsistent at 6,800. He's going to be tough to play in. Dort, I mean, he's as inconsistent as it gets here. And then another ugly value play you can mention, Kenrich and Isaiah Joe, but again, they're all inconsistent. So pretty ugly on this side of the ball.
Yeah, I just feel like this entire slate is filled with like your streaky shooters who get hot and can break a slate, and then they also do a lot of nothing most of the time. And the Thunder, they're another team that tracks, like you mentioned, Giddey, Dort, even Wallace. They all kind of fit into that category. I'm okay getting exposure to Giddey tonight. I'm fine with that. I'm not going to make him a priority just because the Clippers are pretty solid defense at this point. Not someone I like to pick on too much. I prefer to play Jalen Williams and Chet. Chet's price tag is ridiculous. He should not be 8,200 on a 3-game slate. But that should keep his ownership relatively low in a soft matchup against the Clippers with Zubac out. So I'm nervous about the price tag. He's going to have to do a lot and be more efficient and more involved offensively than he typically is. But just because of my expected lower ownership, we'll have to see if that actually ends up being the case. If he's chalky, like 20% or more, then I'm not going to take the shot on Chet. I'm not going to force him in. But I do like the spot for him. Same thing with Jalen Williams, just an easier matchup with Zubac out. And he's been in pretty solid form recently as well. So I trust Jalen more than most of the other options here. SGA is just unstoppable. So he's going to see ownership. I'll probably just be around field weight exposure to him. Wherever ownership is, I'm just going to match the field exactly there. So that's my game plan on that. And that's pretty much it. Did you look at like an Isaiah Joe or Kenrich Williams or anyone like that?
Kenrich is showing up a bit in my early runs, not much. And I think Joe is a little too pricey for me to want to play.
All right, yeah. Dixon, you've been talking about it since the start of the show. We're almost at that game. Shooter said Jalen Williams has been great recently, and Zubac being out, he should do well. I agree with that. All right, next up, we have the Clippers. This is a revenge game for Russell Westbrook, but I don't think he cares too much, to be honest. But we have a pretty healthy team for the Clippers outside of Zubac being out. Brandon, we have the trio whose price tags just keep changing around. Who do you like here?
I'll start out with the obvious in the trio of Paul George, Kawhi, and James Harden. I think they're going to be pretty popular tonight just because they're still hovering around that 8K price range, and any one of these guys can break a slate. So I'll definitely have a decent amount to all of these guys. Westbrook, he's one I've been going back and forth on. As of now, I'm kind of on the fade train. I get he's 5,900 and it's a small slate, but I just can't trust the minutes he's been seeing, and I feel like he's just kind of comfortable in that backseat role now with what they have on his team. So kind of leaning on fading him. I get he's going against his old team, but like you said, I don't think he really cares at this point. And then a couple other guys that are worth mentioning with Zubac out, but again, they're pretty ugly plays, and that's Daniel Tyson and Plumlee. They both, I would imagine, should like get the minute split at center, so they're going to be somewhat viable on a slate like tonight. But yeah, priority would definitely be the main trio here for me.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Kawhi, Paul George, James Harden, I plan on being at least around field weight on all three. My priority is going to lean towards Paul George and James Harden, mostly just because they're cheaper. And I like the matchup for James Harden tonight, so there's that. But again, I'm comfortable with all three of them. Russell Westbrook, it's hard for me to say exactly what my game plan is going to be just because it's really going to depend on how lines are coming together as we get closer to the pre-lock show. For those of you that don't know, I didn't do this. Pre-lock show is at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Might go a little bit later today if we don't have, well, no, never mind. Nuggets aren't questionable, so we probably will have all the injury news. So it'll be 5:30 p.m. Eastern today. Link in the description if you're interested in that. Promo code BDUB, BDUBB, for a 10% discount if you're interested in that. But really, I think I'll have a better conclusion on what I plan to do with Russ by the time we get to the pre-lock show, because we might need his value at 5,900. I'm also just not a big fan of playing guys when they had their ceiling game last time out. And Westbrook just had his 40-plus point performance, and now everyone's like, he's back. He's probably not back. He's probably not. We might get lucky if he sees a little bit more run today, but not expecting it. But if I have to do it, I'll probably just end up at field weight, but we'll see. Outside of that, what were your thoughts on Daniel Tease?
He's not going to be a priority, but he should start again with Zubac out. So, especially without the Denver news, I'll be curious to see how much him and Plumlee are going to pop since we can't use DeAndre or Najee. So, I'm on for tonight's purposes. I'm okay with getting there.
Yeah, I agree. When it comes to usage rates, Paul George is the guy who really sees the biggest move here at 3.6% increase. James Harden has a 2.7% increase in usage rate. And then Kawhi Leonard has a 1% increase in usage rate. And so that's also part of why I'm prioritizing these guys the way I did, just based off of that. But again, I'm okay getting exposure to Daniel, but he's not going to be a focal point. He's not going to move the needle for me too much because, like you mentioned, I expect them to still split the minutes here with Plumlee and maybe even give Powell a little bit more run if I had to make an educated guess there. Let Russ cook a triple-double. If they let him play the entire fourth again, it's possible, but they don't always do that.
Yeah.
It would be just like good times. If you play Maxey and not Russ on revenge day, we can't be friends. Hey, I'm not committing to anything yet. Like I said, I got to wait and see how it all comes together. Hopefully I'm not losing a friend, though. We'll see. Tanner said Nuggets got upgraded. Yeah, appreciate that, Tanner. Disappointing news, but at least we know, I guess. At least we know.
Dixon, if it means anything, I'm not playing Maxey either tonight.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
I knew
I'm
for
not sure what
sure,
to do.
like if Westbrook's minutes were like locked in at least 25 minutes, I would be willing to go there. Because like perfect example, last game he saw 29 minutes. Game before that he saw 16. Like it's so hard to trust.
Yeah, he played the entire fourth quarter last game. So, I mean, there's just no reason for us to believe that they'll do that again, but they could. It's really just anyone's guess on what the coach will do there. But I don't feel certain enough about that to be like, hey, Russ is going to be a core play for me because of what he did last time out. There's just, no reason to believe that. But yeah, everyone, that's pretty much the show. Like I said, we'll both be back for the pre-lock show tomorrow or later today. And then Brandon, you'll be back tomorrow too for this show and the pre-lock show, right? Sweet.
Yep.
So crew will be back together at it. Dave, appreciate you. If you all could, if you've made it to this point, if you could hit the like, share, and subscribe button, that would be awesome. Really does help support us and the channel and make sure all the important people know that people are still watching. So appreciate the support, y'all. Good luck. If you aren't able to make the pre-lock show, if you are, we'll see you at 5:30. Peace out.